Hi, I'm Paul Germain, and welcome to another session of Smart Boating. You know, typically we do this show on different topics that would inform you and make you a better boater. Docking, anchoring, man overboard. But every now and then we get a chance to attend a special event, and that's the case today. We're here in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire at the 2013 Vintage Raceboat Regatta. And joining me is Donnie, one of the organizers. Welcome, Donnie.
Hi, Paul. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. Hey, Donnie, this is a cool event, and I know it's a biannual event. You do it every couple of years. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit more about the event and what it's about and who participates, that sort of thing?
I'd like to. This is we're in our 13th year. We started in 2000, and it's our 8th running. We do it every 2 years. Mm-hmm. This event was the result of a brainstorming session at a costume party in 1999, Halloween costume party 1999. And we put a group together. We had our first one in 2000, and then in 2001 we had our second one, and decided then to go every other year to be off years with Clayton, New York.
Yeah. How many boats do you expect to show up here today?
Today we're going to have about 30 boats here.
Mm-hmm.
Typically we have 30 to 50 boats, mm-hmm. and we're having an event that I think is as good as any we've ever had.
Oh yeah.
And the day is great. It's a little bit cool today, but there's no rain.
Right. And do you have different classes of boats running today?
We have different classes of boats running. We have an unlimited boat from the 20s. Miss America 7. We have what we call our big hydroplanes, which are actually vintage Grand Prix. We have mid-size hydros, which cover a range of hydroplanes running small block Chevrolets. And then we have our outboard hydros. And then we have a group of Jersey speed skiffs and also some Gold Cup boats.
So it's a real variety here today.
A very large group, yep.
Well, I'm really excited about talking to some of the drivers of the boats.
Oh, yeah.
So
yep.
I'll get right into it.
Okay.
Well, here's an interesting boat at the regatta, owned by Bob Harity. Morning, Bob.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, very good. Bob, this is a cool little boat you got here. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
This is a Revo. It's a marathon boat. The boat is actually a reproduction built in the 90s of a 1958 style.
Okay.
The style was used, as I said, in marathons, notably the New York to Albany race, which is 110 miles.
What brand of boat was this? Was there a brand or a model?
It's called a Revo.
A Revo.
And they were built in Long Island.
Okay. Plywood construction?
Plywood.
Plywood? Okay. And what was the typical power on them?
They ran 4-cylinder Mercuries in this size boat, which is what I'm running.
Yeah.
And roughly about 50 horsepower.
Yeah. And how long have you been running the boat, Bob?
About 10 years.
About 10 years, yeah. How many feet is it?
This is 13.
13, and is it pretty light?
For this style, for the outboards, when you'll see some others, this is probably heavy construction.
Oh, it is? Because it's a marathon boat.
Because it's a marathon boat.
Yeah.
Compared to other boats, it would seem like light.
Right. Fairly flat bottom, I guess?
Dead flat bottom.
Dead flat bottom, okay. And a little skeg or something to keep it going straight, or?
There is a small skeg.
Yeah. Well, Bob, we're looking at the cockpit of your race boat here. What's interesting to me is the throttle arrangement. It looks like it's, you grip the throttle?
It's a grip throttle. It's known as a dead man's throttle. Not a very polite comment, but you squeeze it in order to get more throttle. And when you let go, it'll stop.
Oh.
Yeah, but the major safety equipment on it is there's a kill switch, which is attached and electronically interrupts the motor in case you come out of the boat.
Oh yeah. I notice this has the cable steering. You don't see that on boats anymore.
For race boats, cable steering is used.
Oh, do you really? Yeah.
Hydraulic is not considered as reliable.
Oh, it's not? Oh, that's interesting.
So even on the big race boats, you'll see a lot of cable or bar steering.
Yeah. Now I see the steering wheel's in the center of the boat here. And so, does the driver's weight affect the performance of the boat at all?
It does. The lighter the boat, and this is, as I say, probably heavy for an outboard, but still the package I weigh a little bit less than the total package.
Okay.
So the driver moving their weight around makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. Now you don't lean into the turns or anything, do you?
Lean into
oh, you
the
do
turns.
lean into the turns, yeah. Now, you've got an old Mercury on the back here. I don't know whether it's a 2-cylinder or 3-cylinder.
It's 4.
Oh, it's a 4-cylinder.
It's a 4-cylinder Merc, originally 44 cubic inches.
Yeah.
It's a little bit larger than that now.
Yeah, you hop it up a little bit. What do you do, bore it out a little bit, or?
Well, most of these most of these old motors, and this is from the early 60s, they have to be rebuilt, and when you rebuild them, they get a little bit larger.
Okay. Yeah, but it's natural induction, no superchargers, turbochargers, anything like that?
It's a two-cycle engine.
Straight carburetor.
And with 2 carburetors.
Yeah.
And then the key thing on the racing motors is they're direct drive.
Oh, they are, okay.
So there's no neutral and no reverse.
Okay.
So when you start the boat, it will go in the direction it's pointed. So it's useful to have some helpers when you get started.
Okay, and make sure you're pointed in the right direction. Now, what sort of performance do you get out of a rig like this, Bob?
A rig like this is probably 60 plus.
60 plus. Okay. And how long will it go? How long is the race typically?
If it was an actual race, it would usually be 3 laps of about a mile or a mile and a half.
Okay.
This is a vintage regatta, and part of the fun part for us is we got to do 6 laps of over a mile each lap.
So you get to stretch out a little bit more.
Correct. Because we're not officially racing. We're just,
sounds fun.
It's just an exhibition.
Well, here's another interesting boat at the Vintage Raceboat Regatta, owned by Jeff Frenier of Canada, right?
Right.
Jeff, seems like a long way to come for a race.
It's actually the shortest way we have to go. It's the closest regatta from home.
Well, who would have known? What boat did you bring to the show today, or the regatta?
Sorry.
What boat did you bring to the regatta?
I brought my boat, Natural Beauty, which is a 2006 version of a 1954 Alkali Airborne.
Okay. It looks like it's made out of plywood.
It is.
Yeah. How many foot? Around 11, 10 or 11?
On the plan, it was supposed to turn out 11 foot 6 inches. I built 4 of them on the same jig, and they're all 12 foot 2 to 12 foot 4 inches.
Oh, okay. All right. And the beam is maybe 3.5 feet, 4 feet?
The bottom of the boat in the back is 37 inches wide.
Okay.
But the widest beam in the back is 60 inches.
Okay, all right. It seems like it goes in a V almost.
It does.
Yeah. How about the bottom shape? Does that go down to a relatively flat bottom?
The bottom of the boat is perfectly flat, starting from frame number 2 all the way to the back.
Okay, all right. All right. And about how many pounds is the boat? 300?
The empty all weighs about 120 pounds.
120 pounds, so it's very light.
Compared to the newer boats in the same class, it's a very, very heavy and big boat.
Oh, it is. Okay, all right. And how long have you been racing this boat?
I started over here in 2007.
Uh-huh. Well, Jeff, we get a closer shot of the cockpit now. You get the center-mounted steering wheel. Looks like cable steering.
Yes, simple cable steering.
Simple cable. You found that to be pretty reliable?
It's extremely reliable, and the biggest advantage is that you can see everything.
Yes.
So if anything goes wrong, you can spot it before it becomes an issue.
Right, right. And you got a little pad that just sit on here. And then what do you got for power back there? That looks like an unusual power plant.
Well, the motor is basically a Quicksilver tower and lower unit from 1949. And I have a power head, a Mercury Merc 222 cubic inch power head on it.
Okay, okay. Now, did you have to hop that up a bit for the racing?
It's bone stock, basically.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, wow, okay. And how many horsepower do you think it's producing?
The motor was rated at 20 horsepower at 5,400 RPM.
Okay.
But on a race course setting, we rev it closer to 7,500 RPM. So
oh boy.
If you do the math, it's probably closer to 30 horsepower than 20.
Okay. It must be pretty well balanced to wind up that tight. That's a lot of RPMs.
Mercury technology.
Mercury technology. And this is a straight drive, right? Once you hit
Direct
the go,
drive,
you
1
go,
to 1
right?
gear ratio.
Yeah. What sort of performance, Jeff, do you expect out of the boat in terms of speed-wise?
If the water conditions are ideal, this boat will do anything above 50 miles an hour, probably upward to 55 in ideal conditions.
And how many boats would you normally be racing with or going around the course with at a time, like 5 or 6?
5 or 6 is the normal average, yes.
Yeah, and the boat does pretty well, I imagine, huh?
It is, being that it's an older vintage boat, it's a boat that was designed for rough water.
Oh, okay.
And making marathons, 100 miles on your knees and stuff like that.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, here's a neat little boat, again from Canada, with Tina Frenier. Tina, can you tell us a little bit about this race boat in front of us?
This is a replica of a 1954 Hal Kelly Airborne. It was built in 2009. B utility, runabout.
What's it? It's made out of plywood, I would guess.
Yes, marine plywood ukume.
Marine plywood.
Meranti.
And the hull shape itself, is there any V in it at all, or is it just basically flat?
It's pretty much a flat bottom.
Flat bottom, yeah, yep. And it seems like the hull has it kind of flares out towards the stern. What's going on there?
That's just part of the design.
Okay. Yeah. Now, it's a little unusual for a woman to be racing. Is that true?
In this class, yes, because I am the only one in this class.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't see a lot of other women around. Yep. What got you interested in it?
I've been following my husband to races for a few years and just decided why not join him.
Looks easy enough, right?
That's
if he can do it, you can do it,
exactly.
right? Right. So, and this is a particular class that you race in?
It's the outboard class.
The outboard class.
Small outboard.
Small outboard class. And what does that comprise of? Boats under 12 foot or 14 foot?
I think it has more to do with the size of the motors.
Size of the motors, okay. All right, so the boats could be different lengths at the size of the motor.
Because you see there's different length boats here, different shape and everything. It goes with the motors.
Yep, okay. And what sort of performance do you get out of this boat, Tina?
I do about 45 miles an hour with this one.
About 45?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tina, we're looking at the business end of the race boat, and you've got a serious-looking motor there. Not a huge motor, but a serious-looking motor. What exactly are we looking at?
It's a Mercury, 20 horsepower. Around the same vintage as the boat would have been, the 50s. It's a very old motor.
Yeah.
It's a fishing tower and lower unit.
A fishing power. Oh, okay.
Right?
What's that about?
Well, it's a 16 to 21 gear ratio, so it's not a racing motor.
Oh, I see. Okay. You got a small, looks like a bronze 2-blade prop on there.
Right.
Yep. Is that typically what you race with, that propeller?
Yes.
Yeah. And that gives you a good mix of out of the hole and then top speed as well.
Right.
Yeah. How reliable is the engine? Do you ever have any trouble with it, or?
We don't have a lot of trouble with these motors at all.
No?
They're very reliable.
Yeah. So this is kind of a fun, relatively low-cost way to get into the sport of racing,
That's right?
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting race boat at the Vintage Race Boat Regatta, owned by Jerry Davidson. Morning, Jerry.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
Good.
Good. Jerry, can you tell us a little bit about this boat, Roman Candle?
Roman Candle, yes, it's a 266 class, which this F designates, meaning that the class started when the 265 cubic inch engines first arrived. It's now gone up to 302 over the years.
Okay.
And it was built in 1961.
Yeah.
And it was raced heavily from 62 to 73.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was stored for 20 years. And then it went in storage again for 14 years, and then I bought it and restored it, and it is what it is with one of the original engines here.
How many feet long is this, Jerry? How many feet long?
18 feet long.
18 feet.
8 feet wide.
Okay, and what sort of weight are we looking at for a boat like this?
1,500 pounds.
1,500 pounds.
And we make 450 horsepower.
How many?
450.
450. Small block, big block?
Small block. It's one of the special Chevy racing engines, 302 cubic inch.
Okay.
Which not many were made for passenger cars, just a few.
Right.
Mostly they were used in circle track racing and in hydroplane racing.
Right. Mahogany construction?
Mahogany over spruce frames. Mahogany planking over spruce frames.
Okay. All right. So something that's...
The engine also has Hillborn fuel injection, which is one of the very earliest fuel injection systems.
Really? Now I noticed some people working on in the background. Is that your crew?
Yes, that's my crew. That's my crew chief, Howard Pennock, right there. He's been my friend for around 65 years.
Okay.
More than that. And on the other side is my son. He helps out on the crew, and this is Peter Chrysley, who's the driver.
Okay. So it takes a crew to mount an effort like this,
He just did a great job. He brought it all back in one piece, and that's a good thing.
That's very important, isn't it?
And they're just cleaning it out.
Okay. You already made a run this morning, right?
We won't run again until mid-afternoon.
Well, Jerry, the heart of any race boat obviously is the engine. This one looks pretty powerful. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's an original surviving engine that came with the boat, and these were used a lot in hydroplane racing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Oh, why is that?
And they're very small block, 302 cubic inches, and make a lot of power. They turn high RPMs.
Okay.
Higher than most normal small block Chevys. This can actually turn about 8,000 RPMs, although we typically run it 7,000.
Wow, that's winding up pretty
beyond
tight.
7,000 is too scary.
Yeah, that's really spinning it up. And you've got I see the injector stacks for the injection system.
These are the air intake, and the nozzles for the injectors are down a little lower on there.
Okay.
Then there's a special fuel pump that's driven on the back of the engine there that drives that whole system.
Okay, and that allows you to extract some more power out of that small block.
Yeah.
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 Yep. How about durability? Has it held together pretty well?
Very well. We've been running this engine since early 2009. It's run in a dozen or 15 events. The difference between this and a lot of engines is most of the time it's running wide open.
Okay, right.
I mean, you start it up, you leave here, put your foot in it.
Drop the hammer.
So it's a little different than your car engine in that it's running right at the top end all the time.
Yeah, yeah. But it stands up well to the strain.
Very well. As a matter of fact, the fellow who built it owns that boat right over there, Leo Crosseteer.
Yes.
And we built it. He knew we could build the engine to run 8,500 RPM, and we could.
Right.
And I agreed to limit it to 7,000 because in doing that, it's very bulletproof. You can run it again and again. It's just like brand new right now.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, Jerry, this is a 3-point hydroplane, correct?
Yes.
And it's interesting as I focus the camera down here at one of the tail end of the pontoons, it actually has a hole in it. What's that about?
Well, there was a period of time when these boats were built with what were called wet sponsons. In other words, these sponsons fill up full of water when you launch the boat.
Oh, they do?
And then, it isn't clear to me why they did that. They did it for about a 10-year period, then they stopped doing it. But I think possibly it helps to get the weight forward when you want to first start the boat going. You want the boat to come up like that. And the weight in here helps you do that. And then the minute it's going, the minute it comes up a little bit, it all drains out.
It drains out, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting feature.
It is, and this is the whole cooling system right there.
Okay.
That little thing right there.
Yeah, wow.
There's no water pump, nothing in it. This just forces water up through the cooling system and out here.
The raw water pickup, right. Well, Jerry, on a boat this fast, it's really important to be able to steer, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this rudder setup at the tail?
Yes. This was fairly unique at the time. And it was built by the owner of the boat in 1962. And you'll see it's a little bit offset to the right.
Yes.
And that is where he thought he got the best advantage in turning a corner.
Yeah.
And not many people did this until some years later. Matter of fact, when I bought the boat, I was going to move it over to be like the other guy.
Yeah.
Well, a very good friend of mine, Tommy Deeth, who's a national champion of many classes, he said, no. He said he was 20 years ahead of his time. You leave it right where it is.
Right.
So the combination of things, this is called a prop rider.
Okay.
Which means that it rides on the bottom of the sponsons up there and on half the propeller.
Okay.
When he's running along, only the water line is right here.
Right. This is the original version of the surface piercing props.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
It's half and half, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so here's what happens. You look forward and you see that skid fin up there.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, essentially what you're doing when you're turning is rotating around that skid fin.
Yeah, pivoting, yeah.
And so there's a little advantage to having it off to the right. You get a little more leverage in bringing it around against that skid fin.
Now, how about the little fin here behind the driver's seat? Is that useful at all?
I think it makes people think it's going faster or something like that.
I think so.
I don't think you go fast enough that it has any effect.
Well, here's another fast-looking boat at the Vintage Race Boat Show, owned by Leo Crosseteer. Morning, Leo.
Good morning, Paul. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for the invitation. Leo, fast-looking boat here. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I sure can, Paul. This is called a cab over style. It was manufactured, handmade back in the mid-late 80s. It was raced competitively. It started its life down in Miami, went through about a handful of owners, and now we use it on the vintage circuit just for exhibition.
Oh yeah. So this is a traditional 3-point hydroplane, is it?
Yes, it is, and this is as opposed to your conventional or shovel nose. This is a later design. It's a little bit more friendly in terms of handling.
Okay.
Goes through a turn a little more smoothly. It is a faster boat than the earlier designs. And this is considered an E-boat, meaning that it started its life with a 305 Chevrolet engine, and that was the designation. It had to be 5 liters.
Wow. Now what's the construction? Mahogany or plywood or?
This boat is basically a 100% wood with the exception of the cowling, which is fiberglass.
I see, okay. And what does that do in terms of weight for the overall package?
The overall weight, engine, boat, has to be 1,200 pounds, and that basically would include about 4 gallons of fuel.
Okay, all right. Well, Leo, being a race boat, they don't allow for a lot of extra room in the cockpit, do they?
Correct. You don't have a whole lot of room for creature comforts. Basically, you're snuggled into it. You are not strapped in, which is what also designates it as a vintage boat. It doesn't have a capsule. You have a gas pedal to start it, no brakes, no reverse. Once you start it, it's in gear and you're in motion.
Yeah, you're away you go. Now the whole thrust is back here in the engine compartment. What are we looking at here?
Basically what we have is a 350 Chevy. It is allowed in the vintage class, and it has some modernized parts in it, so it's very dependable.
Yeah.
And it also is in the boat backwards from what is normally used in automotive applications.
Okay.
So this is actually a flywheel forward application.
Why is that?
Well, what we're doing is we're driving off the snout of the crankshaft, and we're using the torque of the engine to help the boat maneuver.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. And how tight does this wind up? How many RPMs does it turn at a top throttle?
We typically will turn this about 62 to 6,400 RPMs.
Yeah. And do you find yourself rebuilding it a lot, or is it pretty durable? Will it last through a season?
Actually, this engine is on its 5th season right now with us.
Is that right? So it's not like a race car where they burn an engine a race. This is made to hang in there for quite a while.
This is a carefully prepared competition engine.
Yeah.
And because of the attention to detail and the quality of the parts, it will last for years.
Yeah. Wow. That's nice to know. Well, Leo, when you have a race boat, it's really important that you're able to steer it. And it seems like different race boats have different rudder and propeller configurations. Can you tell us a little about what you're running here?
Yes, Paul. The rudder you'll see is standard fare in terms of design. We understand that rudder placement isn't totally critical. It can be on either side of the prop and still get the same result.
Okay.
The propeller that we use is a 12 by 22. It's an older Mercury lab grind. It's very thin, which makes it a race prop, and it, combined with the RPM of the engine, is capable of putting us comfortably over 100 miles per hour.
Really? Wow. Wow, and this is a rig that you basically run with. You don't change props a lot or rudders or anything like that, right?
No, the only thing that we've done in the past is we've worked a little bit on the boat setup, and we do that with the turn fin primarily. And so we want to make sure that the boat handles well. And normally we're running on a course that's 1 mile to 1.25 miles.
Okay, okay. And this has been a good setup for you?
This is a great setup. The boat handles well. It's nice and smooth. It's kind of like driving a Cadillac.
Nice. replica is a reproduction of a Garwood 28-foot step hydroplane built by Chris Smith of Chris Craft fame in 1928. The original boat featured Packards. This boat features two V12 Rolls-Royce engines, which produce 612 horsepower each. A historic reconstruction of a 1925 Gold Cup Racer multi-step hydroplane. Features a 600 cubic inch engine. Himshi is 27.5 feet long, 6 feet wide, and is built out of ribbon-striped African mahogany. The boat tops out at about 70 miles per hour. Curtis Will Gold III is a 26-foot Gold Cup Racer multi-step hydroplane that was built along the lines of a John L. Hackard design in 1923. This boat, powered by a 604 cubic inch GM offshore racing engine, can achieve a top speed of about 60 miles per hour. Well, Donnie, it's about time to wrap up the show today, and we've had a great event, seen a lot of exciting boats and races and so on.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about the event or the association before we wrap up the show today?
Sure. This event is presented by the New Hampshire Boat Museum, and we're run under the auspices and sanctioned by the American Powerboat Association. Mm-hmm. And it's a great group of people on both sides of the table.
Yeah.
We really love running with the museum. This event is done primarily to support the museum.
Right.
And we do it every 2 years, so look for us in 2015.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Donnie.
Thank you.
And thank you, Smart Boating viewers, for joining us. I hope you'll come back again soon.